Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's class on the Ritz Carlton Hotel Company, the quest for service excellence. This is a case study that has been written by Columbia Business School. I hope all of you are doing very well. So, today's class, I'm going to start off with a quick story. A while ago, I used to live in New York City, and right across my apartment was the Ritz Carlton Hotel. And many a time, I ended up visiting the hotel to use their business center or to meet people for meetings. And every time I would visit the hotel, I noticed that it was always greeted impeccably. While I entered the hotel, it was always very clean. People were very courteous. And I was always able to get good service at the hotel whenever I visited it. And so I lived, across the Ritz-Carlton Hotel for, I would say, a good, 6 years or so. And I really observed that they were able to maintain a high level of quality throughout those 6 years. There were periods where they had a lot of people visiting them, so a high occupancy rate in the hotel, and other times it was, lower. And no matter, whether it was high or low, the occupancy rate, regardless of that, the level of quality was always consistent and quite impeccable. So, while I was looking for good case studies to teach on total quality management, I came across the Ritz Carlton Hotel Company case study and decided to pick this one up because it is something that I myself have witnessed. And I was actually very curious to learn how high quality is maintained in the hotel industry. I always have found the hotel industry a particularly, challenging industry because the levels of quality that are given in hotels globally nowadays is very high. And over a period of time, people have been willing and are willing to pay a very exorbitant price many times to live in high-end hotels, but only in return for very, very high levels of quality. And so the big questions that I've always had, especially going and visiting hotels, and these are just some quick pictures I've gathered of Ritz-Carlton Hotel locations across the world. And so you can see these are actually, hotels that they own in various parts of the world. And it's very interesting because, they are being able to, hotel chains nowadays are being able to maintain quality globally throughout the world. And, the big question is, how do they do it? How do they keep high standards of quality throughout the world? Culturally, different countries are different. The norms are different. In many cases, the expectations are different. And so the big question is, how are they being able, how is it possible that they are able to deliver high quality service throughout the world? And so this case study really talks about that. It talks about application of total quality management principles and how this really helps to deliver service excellence. So with that being said, I'm going to dive straight into this very interesting case study. And I hope you enjoy the story of the Ritz-Carlton Hotel that has been, shared in this case study. And so the case study actually starts off with a gentleman by the name of Pat Mean. And this gentleman actually happens to be the corporate vice president of quality at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel. And right in the beginning of the case study, he's actually sitting, and in front of him, he has a report. And the report has been generated from the dynamic quality information system that the Ritz-Carlton Hotel owns. And he's sitting and scratching his head and kind of wondering how he can take the Ritz-Carlton Hotel to the next level in service excellence. So, that's his area, right? He's the vice president of quality, and he's sitting and thinking about how he can deliver further excellence in quality. And, right at the beginning of the case study, it's also mentioned that the Ritz Hotel was the first one to win the Malcolm Baldrige National Quality Award in 1992. And this award represents the highest level of service in the hospitality industry. So already, the Ritz Carlton Hotel by 1992 was known for high quality services, but this particular vice president, Pat Mean, believes in continuous improvement. And so it wasn't as if once they reached the pinnacle that they said, okay, we're doing really great, we can sort of just relax. In fact, it sort of emphasizes the beginning of the case study about how they're constantly focused on continuously improving service excellence. And so the idea is, that they want to give high quality in a setting of luxury and excellence. And so right here on the left-hand side, you can kind of see, it looks like, in this photograph, it's perhaps some sort of a fine, dinner being arranged at one of the Ritz-Carlton hotels. And here you can see, that they are, providing high standards of quality, but also in a setting of elegance and luxury. So those are, the feel is of luxury and elegance. So I'm gonna, next in the case study, they really give a little bit of the history of the hotel, and they sort of give a good understanding of, right from the beginning to date, the journey of the hotel. And they start off by saying that, look, the first Ritz Hotel was opened in Paris in 1898. So it's a very old hotel. And the whole idea of when, it was started by a gentleman by the name of Caesar Ritz, and you can see his photograph on this slide. And his whole idea was that he wanted to really pamper the guests through meticulous service and luxurious elegance. And so that's what his vision was when he started the hotel in 1898. And he was able to do this in Paris. And very soon, the word across Europe spread about the Ritz Hotel, and it began to be affiliated with high service and high style. So, these were two things that this hotel was known for, service quality and high style. So anyhow, so after Caesar Ritz, in early the 1900s, the Ritz basically became a corporation, and it was, it became known as the Ritz Carlton Management Corporation. And the reason that they really decided to make this, a management corporation was that they wanted to start franchising the name to other hotel owners. And the whole idea was that, Caesar Ritz would he set very strict standards, and he was willing to sort of franchise the name or allow other Ritz Carlton hotels to be opened across the world and managed by different people, but only with the under the assumption and under the agreement that they would abide by very strict standards, and those standards were being set by Caesar Ritz himself. And so under this, corporation, this management corporation, several new hotels were opened. So not only in Europe, but in 1927, hotels were also opened in America, in New York, in Philadelphia, Boston, Atlantic City, also in Montreal, Canada, and also another one in London. And so, this happened in 1927, but what happened in, by 1940 was that, the economic conditions in the US because of the Great Depression and various other economic issues, there was serious economic hardships in the US. And so unfortunately, a lot of the hotels that had been opened in 1927, by 1940s, they were shut down. Another development, fast forward, moving forward, and they continued. So the hotel continued basically main operations in Europe, but in the Americas, they really had to shut down their operations. Now, fast forward all the way to 1983, and at this time, the Ritz Carlton name and trademark were purchased by a real estate developer. And the real estate developer who bought the name and trademark was William B. Johnson. And he became the main owner of the Ritz Carlton hotels. And again, Mr. Johnson had a vision to create a luxury group hotel, hotel group, sorry, and again give the highest standards to its customers, and again really appeal to those that are looking for luxury. And he wanted to really target corporate travelers and invite them to stay at the hotel. And so he took really a lot of measures to ensure high standards were maintained at all of the Ritz-Carlton hotels. So, after Mr. Johnson, he kept the hotel going all the way, it stayed under his ownership all the way until 1995. And at that time, the Marriott Hotel acquired 49% of the Ritz-Carlton Hotel Company. And by 1998, the Marriott Hotel acquired the remaining 51% of the hotel group. So, by 1998, the Marriott Group really owned all of the Ritz-Carlton hotels. And, by 1997, just to give you an idea, there were several Ritz-Carlton hotels across the world. So there were 34 hotels and 25 city hotels and 9 resorts. So you can see just by these numbers that the hotel was growing by leaps and bounds. And again, very strict quality standards were being enforced in all of the hotels. And since the Marriott Hotel had bought all of these hotels, the head office was changed to Atlanta, Georgia in the US. And by the late 1990s, according to independent surveys, 97% of Ritz-Carlton hotel customers were satisfied. And they said that the stay in the hotel really provided them with a memorable experience. So all in all, you can see, from this entire journey that even though, the ownership changed several times since its inception in 1898, throughout its journey, the Ritz-Carlton Hotel owners always kept luxury, high style, elegance, and especially emphasis on high quality standards. These were all aspects that throughout even the changes in management, this was being emphasized, and each of the owners really made sure that they were very meticulous in implementing high quality standards. And so this is something to really admire, that they were able to accomplish this despite changes in management. All right, next up, the case study gives a little bit of background to the hotel industry globally. And, I think it's really important to sort of understand how the hotel industry really started and how it has evolved. So, according to the case study, there have been a lot of transformations that have happened in this industry since the 20th century. And, right in the beginning, hotels were usually, independent entities, and they provided very few conveniences. In 1970s, hotel chains were first developed. And So, and also something that happened in the 1980s and 1990s was that business travel increased. And again, around the 1980s is the time when the internet also, developed. Globalization in the early 2000s also further increased business travel. But there were a lot of things that were happening, interesting things happening, especially globalization around this time, that really catapulted and increased business travel. So, but even though business travel started increasing in the 1980s and 1990s, it didn't mean that this industry became profitable immediately. It took time, and especially in the United States, there was a very interesting story where in the case study where they said that, look, in 1981, uh, the U.S. government really passed a law, and this was known as the 1981 Economic Recovery Act. And this basically was given by the government as an incentive to start, to build hotels and build a lot of buildings. And so these were tax credits. Tax credits were given. So anybody who would build, let's say a hotel, would be able to get a huge tax break from the government. And so what happened is that around 1981, a lot of real estate people, people started building a lot of hotels, and they really just started building and building more and more hotels, and they're to the point that there was a glut in hotels. There were too many hotels being built, and unfortunately not, the hotels weren't really being built keeping the customers and the needs and demands in mind. They were just being built to sort of benefit from the tax credits that were being offered by the government. And so, this resulted, in the early 1990s, this industry was in the United States was seeing a $5.7 billion loss annually, because there were just so many hotels that had been built and, not really necessarily built in the best way possible. So, in the beginning of the 1990s, as I said, there was huge losses for the industry, but by 1995, things started improving. And actually, in 1995, the hotel industry did see a profit of 6 billion. So again, you can see, early 1990s, there was about 5.7 billion loss, which over a period of 5 years did improve thanks to an increase in occupancy rate of hotels. And, it became profitable as, and so year on year, there was, a 6 billion profitability in the hotel industry. Now, by the mid 1990s, it's important, the case study mentions that there were 5 categories of hotels. The first one was luxury hotels, and Ritz Carlton Hotel falls within this. This was really high end. The luxury hotel was the highest echelon. And then after that were the upscale hotels. And, an example of the Hyatt Hotel was given here. So, high end, but not like super luxurious. Then were the mid-priced hotels such as Holiday Inn. After that came the economy hotels. And an example of the economy hotel was La Quinta. And finally, budget hotels such as Motel 6. So, you can see that there were, 5 different segments within the hotel industry. So obviously, according to pricing, these were differentiated. So, and pricing, and obviously if it was a low priced motel, then you would get very basic services, versus if you decide to go to a luxury hotel, stay in a luxury hotel, you would be getting the creme of the creme service. So this is something important to see, the evolution of the hotel industry, and how these segments really came into being. Now each segment operates differently and has its own occupancy and room rates. So obviously the pricing was very different according to the segment. As far as the ownership and management, there were several different methods that were being used. For example, in some cases, a hotel was owned and managed by the same group or individual. So, for example, Marriott Hotel group would owns, pretty much all of its hotels and manages them, right? So that's an example of, a situation where, it's the same group owns all of its hotels. But in some cases, what happens is that hotels are franchised. So this was, I kind of mentioned this a couple of slides ago, but basically the name of the hotel can be used by, is bought, a franchise is bought by somebody perhaps in a different country, and they give the head office a royalty or marketing fee in exchange for certain services. So they would get, they could use the head office's national reservation systems, the advertising campaigns, the discounts. So they would get certain benefits, but they would have to adhere to very strict standards. And in return they could use the name, and they would have they would keep the profits, but they would have to give a franchise fee annually. And finally, so one option was the hotels are owned by the same group or individual. Second one I mentioned was the franchising. And the third one was that some hotels are owned by an individual, but they are being managed by a management company for a management fee. So let's say I own a hotel, but I feel that I'm not going to be able to manage it. So then I could give it to a management company, pay them a fee, and they would manage the hotel for me. So these are three different sort of ownership or management options or agreements that kind of exist. Now, as of 1996, it's also mentioned in the case study. Now we're entering the latter end of the 1990s. They gave an example of how there were 3.6 million hotel rooms available in the United States at approximately 47,000 properties. So again, you can see lots and lots of hotels. And again, this was, the reason was, in 1981, the huge amount of hotels that were built. Obviously, there were, just a lot of hotel rooms available, and at many different properties. Because, towards the latter end of the 1990s, there was an increase in the occupancy rates. The Ritz Carlton Hotel also increased its hotel rates by 19%. So you can see that, it went through a huge dip in the United States in the industry went through a huge dip in the 1980s, finally emerged, out of that dip and became profitable in the mid 1990s. And so quite a journey the industry has gone through. Next, the case really starts talking a little bit more about Ritz Carlton Hotel itself. So, after giving a history of the Ritz and, giving an overview of the industry, the case study starts talking a little bit about Ritz Carlton Hotel's commitment to excellence. And, the big question is, how are they able to maintain a high level of service throughout all of their hotels consistently over several years? So first thing is that they have, a certain set of standards that they follow. They have a great commitment to quality, and this is something that they really, really abide by. The senior management believes in this and really instills these standards throughout the hotel. So let's go through and understand the standards that the Ritz Carlton Hotel maintains in terms of service excellence. So the first thing is something known as the gold standards. And really, when Mr. Johnson acquired the Ritz trademark, he really was the one who started off developing the gold standards. And he wanted to make a chain of prestigious and personalized hotels. And in order to really become profitable, to really gain dominance in the hotel industry. And so he was the one who developed the gold standards. And the gold standards include the credo, the motto, and the 3 steps of service, and also the 20 Ritz Carlton basics. So, all of the things that we're going to talk about, really come under the umbrella of the gold standard. So that's what the big umbrella is. And underneath that umbrella is, the credo, the motto, the 3 steps of service, and the 20 Ritz Carlton basics. And I'm going to go through each one of these with you. So the first one is the credo. And so the credo really is, gives a basic overview of the characteristics of the products and services that the Ritz Carlton Hotel provides. It's more than just a mission statement, because it really influences the development and management of each of the Ritz Carlton hotels. So let me read out exactly what the credo says. The Ritz Carlton Hotel is a place where genuine care and comfort of our guests is our highest mission. We pledge to provide the finest personal service and facilities for our guests, who will always enjoy a warm, relaxed, yet refined ambience. The Ritz Carlton experience enlivens the senses, instills well-being, and fulfills even the unexpressed wishes and needs of our guests. So you can see from this statement that they are really aiming to go above and beyond in the service that they are providing to their customers. In this sentence, you can see that it's not as if they're going to wait for a customer to say that they would like something. They want to fulfill even the unexpressed wishes and needs of their guests. So again, this is something really, they're aiming very, very high in terms of the level of service that they are providing. And this is the mission statement, but even more than a mission statement, this is what everybody in the organization really is taught to believe in and to focus on and to meet this level of service. In order to do this, several things are kept. So there's a lot of details that are kept in mind, small details, large details, everything done in order to sort of fulfill this mission statement. For example, hotel lobbies are kept small. Lobby music varies by the time of day and the surrounding environment. Conference rooms are kept outside the view of the lobby to keep the business function of the hotel separate. There is a 24, so there are a number of facilities that are made available to customers, such as on-site fitness centers, 24-hour room service, and also each hotel is associated with a number of fine dining restaurants with international acclaim. So, these are just a few of the things, but you can just see that, look, they are trying to give the best of the best. They want the best hotels. They want to give the best service 24 hours a day. They want to give all kinds of facilities. They don't want it to be, crowded. They want the business functionality to be separate from, the residential side of the hotel. And so they're really trying to keep, a lot of attention to detail, right? To make sure that it's a, really good experience when customers, when their customers come to stay at the Ritz Carlton Hotel. Now, next up is, something that falls within the gold standards, which is the motto. So what is the motto? And the motto of the Ritz Carlton Hotel is, "We are ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen." And so this really, the motto represents the philosophy of the hotel and their commitment to quality and service. And in this hotel, their employees are treated with as much respect as the guests. Employees are taught that they are professional service providers, not servants. Employees are taught to treat guests in a highly professional and courteous way. And so, huge emphasis on the amount of respect that is given in internal communication and external communication. So lots of highly professional, courteous kind of communication methods are used throughout the hotel. Okay, next is the 3 steps of service. This is something that is required for all employee customer interactions. So anytime any employee has an interaction with the customer, they must follow the 3 steps of service. And this is not only for external customers. This also, the 3 steps of service also must be followed for internal customers. And so the first thing in the 3 steps of service is greet the customer. Without greeting the customer, without greeting, employees are only performing a task and not a service. So it's very important to actually greet people in a very polite and courteous way, because it really, again, the Ritz Carlton method is to go above and beyond. So if you're just going to go and just sort of talk to somebody in it, say, okay, what's your issue, and solve it, you're just kind of just doing a task. But if you're going to greet them and be very polite and courteous, then you are providing a service. So that's why it's very important to greet the customer. Secondly, anticipate the needs of the customers. Employees should anticipate the needs of the customers and fulfill them. So, if somebody is, let's say, it's raining outside, and they're just standing and looking outside and waiting for the rain to sort of subside before they go outside. Well, if you are in the service industry, if you are in a hotel, you would probably anticipate their needs. You would maybe go and greet them. If you are one of the staff at the hotel, greet them very courteously, and ask them if they're wanting to go somewhere, and provide them an umbrella. And this is something very interesting. The Ritz Carlton Hotel, for example, I remember once in New York, I was visiting the hotel, and it was raining, and they were giving free umbrellas to their customers, just so that they could go out. So again, going above and beyond, anticipating customers' needs and fulfilling them. And also, finally, the 3rd step of services, employees should bid the customer farewell after completing the service. So, again, this is very important. You want to, complete the circle by being courteous at the end as well. Something that, I have learned over a period of time is that you can never use the words please and thank you enough. Being courteous really does always, it always does good, but especially in the service industry. Here, this is expected when you are in the service industry, right? So this is what service excellence is about. So anyhow, these are kind of the, on a high level, these were some of the gold standards. The final one is something known as the basics. And, you can sort of look at this in Exhibit 2 in the appendix. But basically, these are the 20 Ritz Carlton basics. Describes problem-solving process, as well as the fundamental rules of conduct that must be followed by all employees. And it really, really reiterates the hotel's commitment to quality service and customer satisfaction. So here you can sort of see it's just a basic list of rules that need to be followed. For example, training certification needs to be ensured for all employees. And each employee should understand their work area and hotel goals are established in each strategic plan. Each employee will continuously identify defects throughout the hotel. Any employee who receives a customer complaint owns the complaint and must follow up and resolve the issue. So I'm not going to go into the nitty-gritties of this, but it's something very interesting to sort of read, because these basically give almost a skeleton of exactly how the basics, how various problems in the hotel industry, or specifically in the Ritz Carlton hotel, should be resolved. Again, it's very interesting. Just a small example over here. Every employee, any employee who receives a customer complaint owns the complaint. So there's no finger pointing. If there's a complaint, it needs to be immediately resolved. Doesn't matter at what level that complaint has been received at, but whoever has received it is responsible for making sure that it is, resolved ASAP. And so it's a very different way of thinking, right? So definitely, I would highly recommend for you to go through and read each one of these and really understand them. And we will have a class discussion on the basics as well. Okay, next is quite an important section in the case study, where they talk a lot about employee selection, training, and staffing. Now, the biggest asset that Ritz Carlton Hotel has is its employees, because these are the people that are basically the interface with their customers, and they are the ones providing the service, right? So it's really, really important for them to have the right employees, make sure that the employees know their work, and that they are able to deliver the service above and beyond the expectations of the customers. So let's just try and understand, how do they hire their employees? How do they train them? And how do they really ensure that service is consistently delivered? So first thing first, there's a huge emphasis that it's important that, every employee knows the gold standards that we just discussed, and that they apply in their day-to-day work. And when you also, there's a big emphasis on empowering employees. And when you empower your employees, then they own, and there's a feeling of ownership that they really get. And this encourages them to really assume responsibility and to satisfy customers. Now, the case study really discusses, 4 key things that, in terms of, employee hiring and training, that the Ritz Carlton Hotel does. And I'm going to now go through each one of those 4 things. The first thing is employee selection. Now, this is really important. How do you determine who you're going to hire? Well, in 1987, what Ritz Carlton Hotel did was they developed a targeted selection process for hiring. And so what happened in 1987 is that their chief operating officer, Mr. Horst Schultz, he appointed a team of managers, and they basically sat down and developed personality profiles for every single position in the company. And what they developed was, a whole comprehensive profile of what the ideal ideal employee for the position, what basic skill sets they should have in terms of, communication skills, attitude, motivation, work experience, pretty much everything. So very detailed personality traits were identified in these personality profiles. And the way they were developed was that they basically looked at the best employee of, working within the hotel in each position, and they made a list of all the qualities that that person had. again, in terms of their communication skills, their attitude, the motivation, work experience, everything. And they really made a comprehensive profile, and they started using that for hiring. Now, it's not just important, they, while developing these personality profiles, they didn't just say, okay, we're just going to look at how an employee's communication skills. In fact, they identified that, look, it's not only their communication skills, but they also have to look at this, their actual skills at the job, their attitude, are they motivated, and also their work experience. And all of these things were then, looking at it comprehensively, then you decide whether or not they're a good fit for the position. Any potential employee who applies at the Ritz Carlton Hotel for a position is asked a set of 55 open-ended questions to identify exactly, where they are on the personality profile for the position. So again, they spend a lot of time and effort in developing, exactly understanding what they're looking for in each position. And then once they had the exact profile that they're looking for, they developed a set of very comprehensive questions to ask employees and to rate them. And only then would they hire them. So very important to invest in developing a good selection criteria. What is it that you're actually looking for? And then how are you going to test whether or not the people that you have, are considering to hire, whether or not they fit the profile or not? Next, let's say, we're able to find the right fit, and they hire somebody who fits the personality profile for the position. They don't just leave it there. So you can have the best employee, hired, but if you don't give them a good orientation and train them, then even the best employee will not be able to perform well. So what they do is that as soon as anybody is hired at any level in the company, they are given a 2-day orientation seminar. Okay. And it really doesn't matter. It could be the CEO, or it could be, or somebody in room service, but regardless, they are asked to go in and attend a 2-day orientation seminar. And at this seminar, they're really told a lot about the organization's history, its vision for the future. They're told about the gold standards, the corporate philosophy, their role, and how they are going to be instrumental in actually, living up to the philosophy of the organization. They are told that there's a huge emphasis on service, both to internal and external customers, and they are given a tour of the entire hotel. Then after that, there is another orientation, which is known as the Day 21 meeting. And so after 3 weeks, after the first 2-day orientation, they're given 3 weeks to just kind of think about everything that they learned in the orientation, sort of, meet people in the organization. And then 21 days later, they are, called back for another orientation session. So, good selection, good orientation, and the next thing is training. And again, this is so important. So you can have the best talent, you could give them the best orientation, but it's extremely important for them to know exactly what they have to do at the job and to train them. And so the way it's done at the Ritz Carlton Hotel is that training is done by a fellow employee who has been certified for their job. For their job. So a contemporary, somebody who's already been certified for the position that the new person has been hired, will give them, training. So definitely not somebody who's leaving the company, but somebody who's doing well in the company in a particular position would be asked to train, a new employee coming in to the company. And the training is done for 30 days, and it's basically done to ensure that all employees provide uniform and consistent high quality service. So the training goes on, as I just mentioned, for 30 days, and it involves technical training and also exposure to the gold standards. And after 20 days, on the 20th day of training, all employees are reviewed by their manager, and they have to pass a test, a written test and a skill demonstration test. And the manager is going to be checking the test, and only and only if they pass this this test will they be given a certification. And this certification is a checklist of all the duties that they have to perform, and it basically says that, look, the manager signs off and says, look, they really know what is required of them, and they are able to perform in and meet the gold standards at the same time. So, after the training, one important thing is not to just let the new employee go. In fact, there is a whole idea of continuous training or continuous coaching. And so throughout the duration of employment, coaching is done. And also there are, on a daily basis, there is a meeting that is held before every shift. And at this meeting, it's usually a 15-minute meeting before any new shift in the hotel. And the corporate philosophy is emphasized in these meetings. And also any upcoming events are discussed at the meeting. And if there are any issues, obviously those are also resolved. Just 15 minutes before every, day. So these are daily meetings, but again, it really emphasizes, the attention to detail as far as service goes. So now what is very interesting to see is that this methodology of selection, employee selection and training has definitely been successful at the hotel. And you can see this because it's mentioned in the case study that the turnover rate of employees at the Ritz Carlton Hotel was reduced by 30% when these practices were instilled and used. And at the rest of the industry, the turnover rate is really high, about 110%. But by using these methodologies at the Ritz Carlton Hotel, the turnover of employees actually went down by 30%. So next, the case study really talks a lot about a total quality management and how it is being implemented in the Ritz Carlton Hotel. So couple of very interesting things happening in the hotel in terms of total quality management. In 1987, something that happened at the Ritz Carlton Hotel was that, look, it was recognized as a premier luxury hotel. So that was, it was known as a luxury hotel throughout the world, but there were still a lot of customer complaints. And, the management really didn't know what to do because there were so many customer complaints coming in. And they decided to really use, total quality management techniques to solve this problem. And it was, according to TQM, most of the problems usually, are in resolving the problem. 85% of the problems can be resolved by changes made by management. So, they started off with really trying to change the management's way of thinking, and create systems and structures that were able to really instill quality throughout the organization. So first off, in terms of management, they started off in the hotel by trying to create a culture where service must be defect free. So there should be no mistakes being made in terms of delivering service. Number two, they started focusing a lot on customer satisfaction. So that was, he made, a big final goal for everybody. Finally, the third main thing was, all employees must try to progress towards 6 Sigma, which means, close to 0 defects in terms of service. Management was told that they needed to lead by example, and they needed to teach everybody else the quality control processes. So they were told, the management was, especially senior management was told that, look, you will need to instill this new quality culture, and you will also need to teach, by showing that what you're doing to improve the quality. So basically, over a period of time, now senior management, senior executives at Ritz Carlton Hotel devote 25% of their schedule to quality enhancement issues. So they, again, this is an example where they are leading by example. So that's 1/4 of their time is spent just on improving quality. And they frequently consult their guests and employees. They go out and they talk about, with their customers and employees about, quality issues and how they can further improve. Also, 14 of the most senior executives of the hotel meet weekly to review quality standards, performance, guest satisfaction, and market development. So again, you can see here, according to, Deming and Duran, the big shift came from the senior management. So they really started changing how they were operating, and their emphasis shifted towards improving quality and making it defect-free. The service that they're providing. Also, an incentive system was created to reward employees for ideas to improve the workplace and guest satisfaction. So they introduced this new program called the Good Idea Program, and this basically gave cash awards to the best employee initiatives, and really emphasizing that whoever is going to deliver high quality service is going to be rewarded. And also 5-star employees were given special rewards at the end of every quarter. So again, good performance started being rewarded. Also, employees were no longer given fixed salary raises. Instead, they started to be compensated for their skills in an effort to keep employee compensation aligned with corporate goals. So it was, employees were clearly told that, look, you are going to be rewarded for the service that you're giving. And so again, it wasn't just like everybody is going to be sort of, their salary is going to be increased. That was changed. And so good, performance was being incentivized by the organization. Next, the case study talks a lot about process control, and this is also an extremely important part of total quality management. And when we're going to be going through this process control, this is really a methodology that they followed to implement total quality management in their hotel. So first things first, every hotel, it was made mandatory that every hotel has to make a quality department. Every hotel has to have this department, and their sole objective would be to make sure that there are zero defects in terms of the service quality, eliminate any root causes of any defects in service. So if there are any problems that are recurring problems, eliminate them, so that you are moving towards a zero defect situation. Also, they made a quality mascot called Mr. Biv, and this mascot was like a cartoonish figure, and this was used as a communication sort of method or tool, just a fun way to sort of continuously remind their employees to make sure that they keep it focused to reduce the 5 most common mishaps in terms of delivering quality. So again, it's just, they try to come up with fun ways to communicate with their employees and remind them to really eliminate any quality related issues that they may be facing. So let's see, let's look a little bit more closely now. The case study really gives more details about how they were managing the total quality management system. So again, as I mentioned a couple slides ago, you know, there was an emphasis, number one, on changing the senior management's perspective towards quality, but also developing systems and structures. And so next, I'll be talking a little bit more about the system and structure that was developed at the Ritz Carlton Hotel to manage quality and improve its service. So first thing first, a new information system was introduced in the organization, and this was known as the Dynamic Quality Information System. And basically, the whole idea of the system was that if there was ever any defect, any mistake that happens in service, providing a service, this data was gathered and put into this system. And this was recorded in the system. And on a daily basis, the system would then generate a daily quality production report, DQPR. And then from this, weekly reports the information from the daily reports was then consolidated into weekly reports. And, by looking at these reports, then it was easily able to, the management was easily able to identify exactly where the problems were occurring. And of course, all of this information about service defects or problems that we're having in quality was fed into the system by information that was given by employees. So again, they started capturing all the quality issues that were happening throughout the hotels, in any hotel, basically, in this one, information system, this software, right? And then what happened is the next thing was that the case study then really talks a little bit more about this daily quality production report, or the DQPR. And basically what the case study explains is that a member of the quality team at every hotel is responsible to gather all defects from all the logs throughout the organization. So one person is basically in the quality team responsible for gathering all the defect related information that is then put into the system. Now, it's important to mention that this tool is not a tool that is this whole idea, the idea of generating this report is not to make anybody look bad or to make any hotel look bad, but actually it's used as a tool for improvement. And every issue that happened, it's important that the record is maintained. It's, this is done by the quality team and every department. They maintain a record of the defect, the actual defect, the date of and time of the incident, the name of the guest involved, the department where where the problem occurred. All of this data has to be put into the system. And also next to the defect is a keyword that is associated with that particular effect. For example, if it was food service delay, then F&B delay would be the tag word for any food delay. So tag words were identified with each of the defects, so that later on, if a search is run for F&B delay, then all the food service delay defects would easily be compiled and a report could be generated. So again, these were all these reports and this way of sort of looking at all the quality related issues. This really helped management in resolving a lot of the problems. So let's take a look at exactly how these reports were being used to solve problems. So basically, employees at each, again, very important to mention, the report, the DQPR report, the objective was not to make any employee look bad. In fact, whenever a problem occurs at the hotel, whoever the problem is, whichever employee hears of the problem, immediately they have to fix the problem. So once the report is generated, the problem has already been solved. So that's not the idea, right? The idea is definitely not to make anybody look bad or sort of identify the problems and then solve them. That's not the purpose. The purpose is to really analyze the quality reports and to see if there are process problems or system problems. Now, it's important to understand that not all employees are given statistical software training. That's just not being done. The quality groups have that kind of training through informal seminars. They are given that training. So the people in charge of quality, the quality department people, for example, they really know how to look into this data and extract, trends. Okay, maybe there are too many, for example, food delays. Well, then why is that delay happening? They really are able to sort of identify the causes of the problems by looking at the DQPR. So, and once they are able to find the root causes of the problems, then basically they can do problem solving and finish the causes of the problem. And once they're able to eliminate the cause of the problem, then they are able to resolve problems. And so the same problem will then stop happening again, right? So for example, if there was a food delay problem that was recurring across many, many hotels, once they identified that, look, this seems to be a really big issue, then they would dig deep, understand what is the reason that this continues to happen again and again. Once they understand the reason, then they would solve the reason for the problem. And then all of the food delay problems would then disappear. So this is basically an internal problem solving technique that they were basically using. Teams, when they are in the process of eliminating the root causes of any problem, they basically form a team, a quality improvement team, and that team is given this assignment to resolve the actual causes of the problem, and they are empowered to resolve the problem. Okay, they have certain steps that the team follows. They have a 6-step problem solving process and a 9-step quality improvement process. So it's not that the team is left to do whatever they want to do, whichever way they want to do it. No, they have an actual methodology that they have to follow to resolve the problems. Now, one of the key things about quality management is not only to have processes in place to manage quality, DQM, and have, it's great to have those processes in place, great to have those structures in place, but it's also very, very important to measure how well you are doing in delivering your service. So this is something that the case study talks a lot about. It says that, look, there's a huge emphasis at the hotel to really measure customer satisfaction. And they really talk about, how is it that customer satisfaction is measured? So at the Ritz Carlton Hotel, they measure quality internally, and they also do it using a third-party assessment. So the first thing that they do is they provide an opinion card, and they leave it in every room for customers to measure customer satisfaction. And once they're, let's say a customer is about to leave after their hotel stay, they really ask the customer to make sure to fill out the survey. And this is a good method, but it was discovered over a time period that the information doesn't really represent a random sampling of customers. So it's not statistically valid. For example, not every customer fills the opinion card. So if not, maybe only, certain customers fill it. So you can't really just rely on opinion cards, right, to measure the quality service level. Maybe, certain business travelers, they're really in a rush, they never really fill out the opinion card. Well, then how do you measure their satisfaction? In order to do this, the Ritz Carlton Hotel really relies on an independent organization by the name of J.D. Powers and Associates. And this organization, they gather information by making phone surveys, and they, make monthly reports. They, do some statistical analysis. They do, quarterly basis reports they generate. They also generate yearly reports. And they then, once they have the reports by, actually calling customers and gathering data, they share that with each individual hotel. And then the hotels use this information to resolve any quality issues that they may have, or any errors that they may be making in their service delivery. Um, This information is also used to benchmark against other hotels. So each hotel is continuously checking what's being, benchmarking themselves, against other hotels and the service that is being provided in other hotels. So let's say, there's a customer who said, look, it was, staying in your hotel was good, but they had stayed in another hotel that was providing XYZ service. Well, then if that information is given to the Ritz Carlton Hotel, they would then say, okay, let's find out what the other hotel is doing. Well, maybe we can also offer this hotel. So this third party assessment method of using J.D. Powers is something that has really, helped the Ritz Carlton Hotel. Additionally, Ritz Carlton also, looks at published reports on the hotel industry, and they also, external assessment reports that are generated by various firms in the hotel industry. They make sure to purchase those reports so that they can really get some in-depth information and continuously improve. So, finally coming towards the end of this case study, it is mentioned in the case study that, look, the Ritz Carlton Hotel really wants that their customers keep coming back to them. They have that they have 100% retention of their customers, and this is a challenge, and this is something that they work on continuously. They want to make sure that they eliminate the root cause of any issue, any service related issue that happens within the hotel, within the Ritz Carlton Hotel, and that they realize their, potential. One thing before closing this lecture today, I do want to mention that the hotel industry today is going through perhaps one of the hardest times ever in history because of COVID-19. This is, challenging times, and only the hotels that are able to give above and beyond and, think of creative ways to really shine through and beat their competitors will be able to survive. This case study, I think, gives great insight to any service-related industry. And, there's so many people who really wonder how they should hire good employees, how they should have good quality within their organizations. And I think that this case study gives an excellent overview of how high quality can be delivered consistently throughout any organization. It definitely gives us a good insight into how to develop structures, policies, procedures, and how change and TQM must be led by management. So with that, thank you very much for joining me for this lecture. I hope you enjoyed it. And, I look forward to an exciting class discussion on this case study. Thank you very much.